biakbuk. Bible Pathian biakbuk kanya wainji hatilaya. Turin alem Bible mi ang kan siama hatilaya yan kan kan ito na.
The narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. But narrow is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. That's the narrow gate. And to that verse, you have to understand. Oh, another verse. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. You can see that through the entire sanctuary. But climbs up some other way is the same as a thief and a robber. And then he says, I am the door. In verse 9, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he shall be saved, and he will go in and find pasture. Because we're his sheep, and he's a good shepherd, right? So we can't stop at the altar of sacrifice. Or can we stop at the laver? We have to enter through that door to be saved, according to Jesus' words, right? Because the Father is in there. That's our destination, right? So the priest would take the bowl of blood after the sacrifice, remember? And then he would take the blood and he'd sprinkle it around the horns of the altar of incense, and then 7 times before the veil. Now, that means their sins were still being recorded on the altar of incense, right? And on earth as it is in heaven. So our sins are still being recorded in the heavenly sanctuary. One of my tours a couple days ago, that mercy is above the law, right? Which leads us to down here. In here we have the 10 Commandments, right? The law of God, which was given to Moses, right, on Mount Sinai. Over here is the pot of manna, that's in the ark, and Aaron's rod. We're going to talk about that, give it 10 minutes, right? Not right now, we're going to have other things to talk about, but we'll get back to that later. Over here is the Torah. Now the Torah was the first 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? And they took the Torah, this white robe, none of the extra stuff that he has on him, right? Just this white robe with the blue tassels that reminded him of the law of God, according to Numbers chapter 15, verse 39. And then over that he has a blue tunic, which has the bells and the pomegranates hanging on the hem of the blue tunic, right? And the bells, obviously he had the most important job in the sanctuary. You could hear him wherever he is in the sanctuary on a regular day that they needed him, right? And the pomegranates, right, they dried up pomegranates and they dyed them. And that's why, because pomegranates don't usually come in blue, right? And so they dyed the pomegranates. And it reminds me of a story, because who does the high priest represent? Jesus, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be that earthly representation of Jesus in the heavenly sanctuary, in the earthly sanctuary.